These then become the dancers in the darks, where they whirl to no music, but the beating of the heart. Sometimes these dancers sip up through the cracks in Nirni to the moonlit world, and walk among us as if made of moonless night.
Beliefs on what exactly the Dro-m Athra are vary all across Elsweyr, yet there is one common trend throughout. They are wicked and should be feared above all else. The Dro-m Athra are the inverse of the Khajiit, dark spirits that have deviated from the Khajiit collective and succumbed to the beat of Lorkhaj's heart. Of all the monsters and wicked spirits of Khajiit mythology, the Dro-m Athra are feared above all, to the point where many Khajiit will refuse to talk about them during the nights when the moons are absent. The exact origin of the Dro-m Athra is unknown, yet there are many legends that claim to offer the truth behind their creation. Some Khajiit claim that the Dro-m Athra are ancient warriors who were once torn between the stars and the sands, and now can only wander in the dark between the two. Another legend says they are a kind of anti-Khajiit, and for every true cat born, a dark spirit is formed in the dark behind the world. Others assert that the Dro-m Athra are simply all wayward Khajiit that renounce the teachings of the Main and so become spiritually lost, a belief pushed by the Temple of the Two Moons. In actuality, like all Khajiit legends, these stories all only contain a piece of the truth. The Dro-m Athra have always been with the Khajiit, and are an expression of the fundamental flaw in the Khajiit soul, their duality. The Dro-m Athra spread like a plague, corrupting Khajiit into bent cats who in turn convert more Khajiit. The life cycle of a Dro-m Athra can be measured in 3 distinct stages of corruption, but there can be a lot of overlap between these states. Perhaps the most common form of Dro-m Athra, the bent cat, is any kind of Khajiit who has begun to go down the crooked path, a dangerous, recursive thought pattern with strong roots in nihilism. Symptoms can be slow to appear, and early symptoms include hearing the drumbeat of Lorkhaj, losing control of your extremities to strange dance, and being overpowered by a strong sense of dread. After a few months of this, physical symptoms begin to manifest themselves. The parasite of the darks begins to grow inside the bent cat's body, causing the skin to stretch and tear, with nothing underneath but shadow. Eventually, the pressure becomes too great, and the bent cat bursts, allowing the soul of the Khajiit to escape to the dark behind the world. This soul is a fragment of the Dro-m Athra wind. While a Khajiit is still a bent cat, they can be cured of their affliction. The chance of succeeding in curing a bent cat depends on how far down the crooked path it is. There are 2 main methods of dealing with a bent cat: the way of Jode and the way of Joan. The way of Jode is to kill the bent cat, forcing its soul to the dark behind the world where it can't harm the Khajiit, for the time being. The way of Jode is the only method known to the Twilight Cantors for dealing with Dro-m Athra. The Way of Joan, or the Chase-Away Song, is a complicated set of rituals and verses to drive the dark out of a bent cat and make them into a true cat once more. This way is only known by the secretive Order of the Hidden Moon. The Dro-m Athra Wind is the name for the formless mass of Khajiit spirits that inhabit the dark behind the world. The wind finds it very difficult to remain in the material world, as they are almost purely spirit. In order for them to stay in Nirn, they must bind with a living Khajiit host. In doing so, they can turn the Khajiit towards the crooked path, something which only the strongest wills can resist. These dark spirits are easy to banish, as they are barely clinging to the world as it is. Although both the ways of Joan and Jode work against the wind, the way of Joan is much more effective. The spirits with the strongest wills exert their own pockets of individuality over the wind, absorbing lesser and like-minded wills into their own. These agglomerations of Dramatra can coalesce into a Dramatra Strider, the most dangerous of all Dramatra. Dramatra Striders are the strongest and most dangerous form of Dramatra. They can take many forms, ranging from humanoid entities to whole villages. The most common kind of Dramatra Strider is one that's built around a single strong Khajiit spirit that has absorbed other spirits in order to coalesce into a Strider. These Striders normally hold on to a semblance of identity, unlike the more abstract types of Striders. Another, rarer type of Strider is a collection of Khajiit spirits with a similar central ideology or goal. These Dramatra don't have an identity in the traditional sense, but rather a general intelligence based around a certain personality, idea, or ideology. Dramatra Striders can be banished, albeit with incredible difficulty, by both the Way of Joan and the Way of Jode, yet the Way of Jode is typically more effective. There isn't a lot of recorded history about the Dramatra, as the Khajiit don't like talking about them all that much, but there are a few standout incidents that have been recorded in the annals of time. Thought by many to be just another holy temple of the Two Moons, the Temple of Seven Riddles holds a hidden secret. Deep in the southern canyons, there is a hidden breach called the Cave, which links Elsweyr to the dark behind the world. The Temple of Seven Riddles was built around a great seal that locks away the breach, and the highest order of the Twilight Cantors would maintain the seal in utmost secrecy. In the 582nd year of the Second Era, the seal against the dark was broken, causing a Dramatra horde led by the Strider Rakat to flood through the temple. With the help of the vestige, the Cantors managed to reseal the breach and drive back the Dramatra. Lorne used to be a village in the central southern canyons in Anequina. However, sometime in the Second Era, all of the Khajiit of Lorne fell to the Bent Dance. The reason for why this occurred is not immediately apparent, but through the course of the Twilight Cantor's quest, it is revealed that the town was built in the shadow of the ruins of the Temple of Seven Riddles. Upon discovering what had happened to the townsfolk of Lorne, the Cantors burned the place to the ground and killed all the bent cats. The dark behind the world is Namira's plane of oblivion, where the spirits of bent cats go for them to suffer. It is described as a cold and barren land, with endless dunes of ash and no moons or stars in sight. Always in the distance, never out of sight, there is a great mountain which hides the beating heart of Lorkhaj. There are only two ways to escape this hell: straighten your tail or find the cave. The first way is a cruel joke, for there is no light of the moons to be found in the darks. The second is a secret lost to time, known only to a few. The cave was a gift to the Khajiit by the demigod Haranjir, something that was meant to be a way for the spirits to escape the darks and straighten their tails. Unfortunately, the cave was abused by Dramatra with less than noble intentions, and so the true Khajiit had to seal it off for good. The Crooked Path is the name for the ideology or spiritual affliction that causes Khajiit to become Dramatra. It is characterized by a recursive, nihilistic train of thought centered around the Bent Dance.
How is the world broken? The drums doomed the world. How do we fix the world? We listen to the drums. How is the world broken?
The Crooked Path is used to reference a number of different parts of becoming a Dramatra, the deviation from the true path, the progression of a bent cat, and the spiritual disease itself. To the Anequinins, Lorkhaj is the moon beast, the ancient enemy of the Khajiit gods. They believe Lorkhaj invited the great darkness into his heart, and so is responsible for his crimes. To the Palatines, Lorkhaj is the sugar ghost, a tragic god that tried to help the Khajiit with his gift of moon sugar. They believe that he was infested by the great darkness, and they forgive him for his crimes. However, both states agree that the beating of Lorkhaj's heart is what calls the Khajiit down the crooked path. He represents a divorce from the spiritual world that the Khajiit depend upon, and an embracement of the existing world. The Temple of the Two Moons attributes an overindulgence in material desires to a form of the crooked path. But what it means to embrace the world goes deeper than they say. While not the source of the crooked path like Lorkhaj is, Sheogorath holds a unique place in the Dramatra mythos, as he represents a general temptation to abandon the things that make a Khajiit, their identity, their freedom, and their connection with the spiritual. Skooma and all its derivatives is not just another drug to the Khajiit. It's a purposeful rejection of the principles that the Khajiit identity is based on. Effectively, it weakens the Khajiit to the call of the crooked path. It is impossible to talk about the Dramatra without talking about Namira. She is the patron of dark spirits, and by extension, the Dramatra. She is responsible for the corruption of Lorkhaj's heart, and so, the Khajiit. The dark behind the world is her realm, a reflection of her own twisted self. Namira is an oddity in the Khajiit pantheon, for she has no true identity or personality to herself. Rather, she represents a vast emptiness that is impossible to know, the failure of the Khajiit's knowledge. The world of Elsweyr is vast and mysterious, and stretches far beyond the sands and jungles that the eye can see. We hope you've enjoyed this small glimpse into the hidden world of Khajiit mysticism, and that it has helped your understanding of these strange southern lands. If you want to see Elsweyr become a reality, and have skills in concept art, 3D art, or writing, we invite you to apply using the link in the description.